welcome to my channel. I am Cheryl, and today we are going over Stephen King's It and going through the descriptive areas of the book that I enjoyed, some of the settings that I enjoyed, and trying to get a better understanding of how to do description based off of the ever descriptive Stephen King. Before I get started on that, my channel is about becoming a better writer. I do lots of research for you. I share that with you, and then we read books, and then we discuss the books related to what we learned 2 weeks before. So if you are interested in that, then feel free to subscribe to my channel, click the bell notification so that you actually get my videos to your feed. And without further ado, here we go with Stephen King's It. Okay guys, so here's my Stephen King It book. Hopefully you guys had a chance to read some of this monster so you can join in the conversation below after this video. I'm going to share with you some of the sentences, similes, metaphors, and settings that I found to be very educational as far as learning how to learn descriptive writing. And I would love for you to share a sentence or two or a paragraph down below of your favorite sentences out of this book as well. So without further ado, we will start with metaphors and similes. I learned today. I looked it up. I actually, okay, so I'll admit it. I have a son in high school, and he's in high school, so he's learning all this stuff in school that I forgot. And he's actually in advanced English. He loves English writing. Go figure. But I asked him, I said, listen, when you compare something, is it a simile or a metaphor? And he said that they're basically both the same. They both use something to explain. So that chair is as black as a crow. That's a simile because I'm using the word as or like. But if I said that the chair is a black crow, then that would be a metaphor. He gave me a better example. Anyway, like or as is a simile, and the metaphor is when you actually use the word in place of something. So I sampled a few random pages out of it to see how often he uses metaphors or similes per page. And I got some as often as 4, and I got some pages with 0. There's no rhyme or reason. I guess when it's needed, he uses it, and when it's not, he doesn't. So page 57 is the page that had 4 of them, and I'm going to read them to you right now, and I'm going to list them up on the screen so you don't have to look at me. See? All right, so panic was rising in her mind again. It was like bitter black coffee threatening to overflow the rim of a cup. That's a pretty good visual. And then she stood there perfectly still, a pale statue with a pulse beating in its throat. So that would be the metaphor. And then halfway down the page, he says, some of the buttons spilled out, glittering like glazed eyes in the lamplight. Simile. The last sentence on that page, walking as sedately as a woman on her way to a ladies' book circle meeting. She went up the stairs and down the closed bathroom door. I don't like that one, but that's okay. Okay, so then some other random ones that I picked because I like them are on page 22. Let me tell you something. This book is flipping heavy as I stand here. I should have done this at a desk today. This is a workout.
1 and 2. Okay, I'm done.
All right, so 22, third paragraph down. Oh, and this has a word that is no longer acceptable, Mr. King, so I'm not saying it. But it says, at this point, Webby Garten decided he was going to rearrange the guy's face. In the geography of Melon's face, mountains would rise and continents would drift. That's kind of cool. It's kind of a good visual. Mountains don't typically rise and continents don't typically drift quickly, but apparently his face is going to move like that pretty quick. The next one that I liked was on page 52. Ooh, yeah, I like this one. Okay, second paragraph down, it's like the last sentence or two. So he's talking about a dream, and his wife would ask him about it, or his girlfriend, I don't remember who it was at this point. But it says, I can't remember. Then he would reach for his cigarettes and smoke sitting up in bed, waiting for the residue of the dream to pass through his pores like bad sweat. Let it soak in. That is good. It gives you a visual of the dream just kind of slowly going away, and it's unwanted, so it's bad sweat, and yeah, I like it. All right. So then my last one that I specifically pulled out is on page 150. Oh, yeah, this one's nice. It's kind of scene setting, more so than, well, it's description at the same time. They're both description and scene setting. But the Notebook is supposed to be an effort to get beyond that obsession by widening the focus of my attention. After all, there is more to the story than 6 boys and 1 girl, none of them happy, none of them accepted by their peers, who stumble into nightmare during one hot summer when Eisenhower was still president. Yeah, this is scene setting. It is an attempt to pull the camera back a little, if you will, to see the whole city, a place where nearly 35,000 people work and eat and sleep and copulate and shop and drive around and walk and go to school and go to jail and sometimes disappear into the dark. That's a great way to visually have us pull back and understand that the story is more than just a couple of kids, like I explained it in my book review last week. I realized that he is a very good scene setter. So I picked out some of the scenes that I thought were good, that he described very well, that kind of sucked me in. This book, I was kind of like in and out, like I wasn't sucked in the entire time. I explained that in my book review. But there were some scenes that totally sucked me in and I thought were great. So there's one scene where I think Stanley... spoilers. Spoilers! There are going to be spoilers right now, so get off if you haven't read it. All right, page 58. I think it was Stanley who goes into the bathtub and kills himself. So this is somebody walking in and seeing him. And it says, the bathroom was lit by fluorescent tubes. It was very bright. There were no shadows. You could see everything, whether you wanted to or not. The water in the tub was bright pink. Stanley lay with his back propped against the rear of the tub. His head had rolled so far back on his neck that strands of his short black hair brushed the skin between his shoulder blades. I'm going to stop right there and just say, wow, what a piece of detail that just adds so much. And it's such a small piece of detail, but it added so much. The short hairs hitting the back of his neck. That just, I loved it. Okay. If his staring eyes had still been capable of seeing, he would have looked upside down. Oh, she would have looked upside down to him. His mouth hung open like a sprung door. That's good too, because in my mind, when he says his mouth hung open, which is where most people would stop, I just picture a mouth open. But when he says like a sprung door, when my door falls off hinges or whatever, like it goes back, it goes further back. So now that put his jaw from to like all the way down. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, so his expression was one of abysmal frozen horror. A package of Gillette Platinum Plus razor blades lay on the rim of the tub. He had slit his inner forearms open from wrist to the crook of the elbow, and then had crossed each of these cuts just below the bracelets of fortune, making a pair of bloody capital T's. The gashes glared red-purple in the harsh white light. She thought the exposed tendons and ligaments looked like cuts of cheap beef. I'm not so sure how much I like that last sentence, but what an amazing, picture. He painted a perfect picture. I think I saw what he wanted me to see, but absolutely. And like I explained what he said 2 weeks ago, he didn't need to add anything else. He doesn't talk about the color of his skin. I saw skin, like I saw normal skin because it was recent. He didn't add whether or not the skin had drops of water on them or anything else. He gave us enough, and the pieces that he gave us, he added a oomph to the description. Alrighty. Scene. I have a couple scenes here. So this video might get long. If you decide that you want to stop watching it, I'm saving the best one for last, at least my best one. So I would say just stay. But if you do leave, then please do below leave a comment on your favorite scene. and or your favorite descriptive sentence, and why it was your favorite. The next setting is, it's actually just a sentence, but I just thought it's just it's the perfect words for this scenery. It's on page 211, and it's the the first full paragraph. And it says, "Dairy school brooded under a bruised skin of sky." What a simple, quick, and easy way to do a perfect setting. Instead of saying, there's a little bit of purple, there's a little pink and blue and gray and all meshed together. It's a bruised sky. It's amazing. The next setting I have was when Bill was driving in a cab, and he returned to his city for the first time in a long time. And he says, "That's all right," Bill said. "It was overcast outside, and now a few splatters of rain hit the cab's windshield. The radio muttered about an escaped mental patient from somewhere who was supposed to be very dangerous, and then began muttering about the Red Sox who weren't. Showers early, then clearing. When Barry Manilow began moaning about Mandy, who came and who gave without taken, the cable snapped the radio off. Bill asked, 'When did they go up?'" So it really wasn't a visual scene that he painted there. It was more of a feeling, without even mentioning the word feeling. So I thought that was nice. It was a nice setting to how Bill felt in the cab, everything that was going on around him. So that was nice. Now my favorite, this is going to be long. This is going to be a very long reading. It's about a full page of reading. But this is my favorite scene. I won't call it a setting. I'm not going to call it a feeling, or it's all description. But he paces it like so good, because something's happening and is happening, but you want it to happen, but he's taking his time and just giving descriptions along the way. I love it. I heard this on my audio. It was playing on the audio, and I stopped what I was doing. I was washing the dishes, and I just had to stop and just, what's going to happen? So it was the part where Bev went back home, and she went up to her old house, and the name on the door or whatever was similar to hers, but it wasn't hers, which meant that her dad was no longer there. And some woman answers the phone and invites her in, and they're chatting, and then we're just going to jump in. It's on page 569. All right, so it says, "Mrs. Kirsch smiled and pushed a hand through the air." "Pshaw," the jester said. "I call all pretty young girls miss," she said. "Just a habit. Don't take offense." "No," Beverly said, "not at all." But for some reason she felt a further touch of unease. There was something in the old woman's smile that had seemed a little, what? Unpleasant? False? Knowing? But that was ridiculous, wasn't it? "I love what you've done to the place." "Do you?" Mrs. Kirsch said, and poured out. The tea looked dark and muddy. Beverly wasn't sure she wanted to drink it, and suddenly she wasn't sure she wanted to be here at all. "It did say Marsh under the doorbell," her mind whispered suddenly, and she was frightened. Mrs. Kirsch passed her tea. "Thank you," Beverly said. The look of it might have been muddy. The aroma, however, was wonderful. She tasted. It was fine. "Stop jumping at shadows," she told herself. "That cedar chest in particular is a wonderful piece." "An antique, that one," Mrs. Kirsch said, and laughed. Beverly noticed that the old woman's beauty was flawed on only one score, and that was common enough here in the Northlands. Her teeth were very bad, strong-looking, but bad all the same. They were yellow, and the front two had crossed each other. The canines seemed very long, almost like tusks. They were white. When she came to the door, she smiled, and you thought to yourself, how white they were. Suddenly, she was not just a little frightened. Suddenly, she needed to be away from here. I'm very old, yes, Mrs. Kirsch exclaimed, and drank her cup of tea off at a single gulp, with a sudden shocking slurping sound. She smiled at Beverly, grinned at her, and Beverly saw that the woman's eyes had changed too. The corneas were now yellow, ancient, threaded with bleary stitches of red. Her hair was thinner. The braid looked malnourished, no longer silver shot with bright yellow, but a dull gray. Very old, Mrs. Kirsch reminisced over her empty cup, looking slyly at Beverly from her yellowed eyes. Her snaggle teeth showed in that repulsive, almost leering grin. From home with me it came. The RG carved into it, you noticed? Yes, her voice came from far away, and a part of her brain yammered. If she doesn't know you've seen the change, perhaps you're still all right. If she doesn't know, doesn't see... I'm going to stop right here. Maybe I shouldn't, because maybe you're like getting sucked in like I was. But that sentence right there where it says, yes, her voice came from far away and a part of her brain yammered. If you've ever been scared, you know exactly what he's talking about there. And I think he explained it like dead on. Your body just kind of reacts and you don't quite know what you're doing. You just kind of do it and then you catch it later. My father... she said, pronouncing it fodder, and Beverly saw that her dress had also changed. It had become a scabulous, peeling black. The cameo was a skull. Its jug hung in a diseased grape. His name was Robert Gray, better known as Bob Gray, better known as Pennywise the Dancing Clown, although that was not his name either. But he did love his joke, my fada. She laughed again. Some of her teeth had turned as black as her dress, the wrinkles in her skin now cut deep. Her milk rose skin had gone a sickly yellow. Her fingers were claws. She grinned at Beverly. Have something to eat, dear. Her voice had risen half an octave, but the octave was cracked in this register, and her voice was the sound of a crypt door swinging mindlessly on hinges clogged with black earth. No, thank you, Beverly heard her mouth say in a child's high, oh, I must be going voice. The words did not seem to originate in her brain. Rather, they came out of her mouth and then had to travel around to her ears before she was aware of what she had said. Yes, exactly. That's not him saying, yes, exactly, that's me. That's just dead on. He must have been scared shitless at some point. No, the witch asked and grinned. Her claws scrabbled on the plate, and she began to cram thin molasses cookies and delicate frosted slices of cake into her mouth with both hands. Her horrid teeth plunged and reared, her fingernails long and dirty dug into the sweets. Crumbs tumbled down the bony slab of her chin. Her breath was the smell of long dead things burst wide open by the gases of their own decay. Her laugh was now a dead cackle. Her hair was thinner, scaly scalp showed in patches. Oh, he loved his joke, my father. This is a joke, miss. If you enjoy them, my father bore me rather than my mother. And then she goes on to swear a little bit more than I would like to, on camera anyway. So that was my favorite scene from the book, and I think, you know, like I said, it was just the timing of it, and instead of him just going from she was a nice lady to all of a sudden she was this, and this, it was she was a nice lady to this subtle change, and this is what the character thought, and then this subtle change, and this is what the character thought, and he just kind of drags it out and teases you, and then bam, hits you with all of it at once, like a page later. So all in all, you know, if you watched my video last week, you know I didn't finish the book because it's just too much for me. There wasn't enough thriller. He didn't suck me into the thriller part. He sucked me into their individual lives, and their individual lives weren't, you know, exciting enough for me. But all in all, the writing is just, he is an amazing writer, and I feel like I learned a lot. Whether or not I will be able to manipulate my own words to be as good as his, we'll see. Yeah, I think reading this book as far as I got, was helpful. And I think it will be helpful when I read some of your favorite lines or your favorite settings and why you thought they were your favorite. So, yeah. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Oh, I'm going to be posting a short story that I wrote last week. So stay tuned for that. It's a little horror flash fiction. So I think it's like 1,000 words, 1,500 tops, but it's just a quick little story for you that I'll be posting next week, and then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program of learning. So thanks for watching. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.